Welcome to another episode of the Intelligence Fabric. My name is Mike Brewer, and this podcast is about where intelligence shows up in multifamily. Now, today is a recap of season 1 and season 2. It is really my insights, the things that I took away from those 2 seasons, as a preface for season 3, where we're going to invite owners, asset managers, marketing executives into the conversation. We're going to start to unpack this stuff in a more tangible, real world way. So the takeaways I had from season 1 and season 2, I'm going to start by boiling it down to 2 phrases. Stop collecting messy data and start connecting your data. So first part of that 2-part phrase is making sure that your data is clean. Because one of the things I discerned in these first 2 seasons is if you put AI on top of dirty data, you're just going to create the same outcomes faster. That's it. Now, I'm not saying anything novel or unique here. Other people have said that, but that is the reality. If you put great AI on top of dirty data, you're just going to get dirty outcomes. Let's put it that way. The real lesson that I took away from season 1 and season 2 is that we need to start connecting that data. We call it the intelligence fabric. It lays on top of your source of truth, where all the data lives, but it lives in a structured way. It's extrapolated out in an agentic way. So agentic AI is taking information in from whatever business ecosystem, but it's also extrapolating data out of this source of truth and putting it into a useful form and fashion. So that you as an owner and operator can make more informed decisions. You can make decisions that are going to drive revenue or are going to trim expenses, both under the premise that you're going to improve your NOI, whatever actions you take out of that data. Whatever you execute on is going to improve your revenue. It's going to help you make better investments on the marketing side, your marketing spend, to be more specific. Some of the other things that I took away from this season 1 and season 2 is that we we have a real connection problem in this industry. Integrations are very tough, but in the intelligence fabric world, surfacing that data out of a good data lake, data pool, data warehouse, or you might label that, it has been cleaned and cleansed in a way that when it gets taken up here to the top, you can make very useful decisions on it. Connecting all these disparate systems into one useful stream that yields better workflows for better outcomes is the real lesson. One of the real lessons. The other thing that I took out of the season is jobs are changing. Current roles and responsibilities up and down the hierarchy are changing. And I think they are changing for the better. What's happening is that all of this institutional knowledge that lives in the head of a regional manager, a property manager, a leasing consultant is now being baked into a workflow. So if that person leaves the organization, you still have the methodologies that are useful to you in creating good outcomes in the organization. You've all seen this. We said this in one of the episodes. You have this great person who really is the duct tape and the bubble gum and the shoelaces that are holding your operation together. And it's only evidenced by the time that they leave. When they leave the organization, you figure out that your duct tape, bubble gum, and shoelaces don't hold your organization together in the way that you thought it was held together. You have to institutionalize and systematize all of that lives here into a system so that your business continues to move forward when that person leaves. The other thing is optimization is not intelligence. This goes back to the idea that you can optimize by putting AI on top, but you're just going to optimize a messy outcome faster than you ever have before, which can create all kinds of problems. So it's very important that you get a good, clean source of data to pull from. We've got to stop counting credit and we've got to start tracing movement. So if you're thinking about this in a lease attribution perspective or from a lease attribution perspective, stitching together all of the sources that influence an outcome is more important than giving credit to one source. Otherwise, how are you making really smart spending decisions, investment decisions as it relates to the marketing channels that you're pushing your message out on. If you're not looking at how those particular mechanisms, platforms rather, are influencing the ultimate outcome, you're spending dollars on that one source that you're giving all the credit to. In many cases, we've discovered that's your website. The website accounts for 60, 70, 80% of the leads that come into your organization. We all know that's not true. Wouldn't it be wise to know every single touch point and the weight or level of influence that each one of those touch points did or contributed to the ultimate outcome being a lease in your apartment building? Wouldn't it be better to look at it that way and make spending decisions, spending investments with that knowledge in mind? The other thing that I learned is more tools don't make it better, they make it worse. What happens many times, if you're looking at things in isolation, a problem presents, it rears its ugly head, so to speak. You immediately go to look for a solution, a technology solution. You put that technology solution against that problem. And then another problem rears its ugly head, maybe because of this thing that you just saw, or maybe it's completely independent of this. But then you go look for another point solution, another point solution, and another point solution. And pretty soon you have tech creep. You have these huge bloated tech stacks, or a huge bloated tech stack that doesn't achieve any of the outcomes that you truly desire. Most of the time because they don't talk to each other. You're just creating a bigger problem where data just sits in silos and it's not connected. So you're making decisions based on 20% of the information, or 30% of the information, or maybe 60% of the information if you're lucky. But you're not truly optimizing the decisions because you've just got tech bloat. Too many point solutions. Not that there aren't great point solutions, or you do need, not that you don't need them. Some of them you do need. But at some point, if you're just causing more friction or more noise or less visibility into your operation, then you need to reconsider that. The last thing is you're not data poor. This is the one that makes me smile and laugh. We have more data in multifamily than we ever have. I've been in this business for 30 years. We have more data at our fingertips today than at any other time in the history of this industry. There's so much data. We can swim in data. It's everywhere, all the time. My guess is that most of us have multiple dashboards that give us multiple insights into the various aspects of our business. But has it made us any better? My speculation, having not left the operations side of multifamily too long ago, is that it's making it worse. I remember staring at dashboards thinking, all right, red light, yellow light, green light. Green light is fine. Yellow light, there's a little bit of caution. There's a red light. We need to dig into that. Oh, wow, there's a lot of red lights. Oh, there's a lot of green lights. It didn't make anything better. It told us where to look, but then when it told us where to look, if we had a very large portfolio, we had lots of places to look. And then we had to figure out how to put resource against those issues. Then we had to figure out how to create accountability workflow. We had to create all these things. It didn't make it better. What we lack right now is a decision assistant, a decision machine that helps us not only surface data that's useful in terms of informing our decision-making process, but also in some cases makes those decisions for us. How fantastic would that be? Or where it is absolutely necessary to have a human make a decision, to make a discernment, because there's a lot more context that potentially the AI or the decision machine doesn't have. It calls you to the point to make the decision. It gives you the ability to do scenario planning. So if I make this decision, sort of like, what if I do this will happen? What if I do this? What if I do this? You know more than the decision machine, at least at this point, will ever know. So you being in the loop as it relates to making some of those decisions is also very useful. That's where we're headed. So we have this source of truth. We have this agentic layer that's piping data in and out of that source of truth. We have this intelligence fabric that is surfacing the data that is useful in making informed decisions, whether it be rev gen decisions or better investments for your marketing spend. And then we have a decision machine telling you the decisions that have already been made and the expected outcomes, or drawing you in and asking you what you want to do next? And then over time, it learns what you're telling it. And over time, it becomes more efficient and more effective at making decisions and only surfacing the decisions that you actually need to make. Imagine the time that that would free up for you and for your team. I wrote a paper recently called Just Give Them the Answer. There is so much noise in multifamily today that we have no time to give every single decision that we need to make the intellectual rigor that is necessary to make that decision in a useful way, in a productive way. Some of us can do that 60% of the way or 70% of the way, but there is some percentage of the way that we can't do it. And it's only because of the volume that is coming at you on a daily basis. So our position is just give them the answer first and then supply all the logic that went into making that decision and or surfacing the decision that is ready for you to approve or not approve. So that's what we're going to unpack in season 3 when we're talking to busy professionals out in the multifamily marketplace, asset managers, owners, and marketing executives. And I can't tell you how thrilled I am to do that. I expect to learn a lot. I expect to impart a little bit of knowledge in those conversations, but I'd invite you, all of you, into viewing and engaging and getting feedback, commenting on what we discern collectively, because that's the only way we get better. So with that, I will end here and invite you to tune in to season 3 of the Intelligence Fabric. Thank you.